the important thing about faith is that faith is not our faith. Right? That was the main thing we talked about last week about Hebrews. Faith is not something that we have and we believe in something that is something that you do not see. A lot of times when you think about your faith, you may have some kind of a confidence in it, but it's not 100% confidence. When I was getting married, how was I 100% sure that it was going to work out? You know, I mean, you have faith that it's going to be, good enough? That you could have fun, but there's no guarantee. So you kind of have faith that it's going to be okay, but it's not on 100%. So in the same way, a lot of times when you think, I believe in Jesus today, how do you know you're going to believe in Jesus like 20 years from now? Because some people do walk away from church. And like I told you last week, that there are times where I wake up in the morning and I say to myself, what if it's just Bible or something man just said, I'm just going to write a story. And there's no such thing as heaven and hell, there's no God, we're just cells that just kind of did whatever it's supposed to do. I mean, those thoughts do come up, So a lot of times when we think about faith, we think, I need to increase my faith. I lack in faith. When you talk about somebody, by the way, when you guys think of me or when you guys talk about me, do you guys tell your friend, Pastor Andy, he's a man of faith? You guys say that? Anybody? And nobody? Nobody here tells your friend, yes, Pastor Andy, he's a man of faith? Okay. Right? Alright, I don't look like the kind of a man that will say, Andy, that's a man of faith. No, not at all. In fact, I was sharing with somebody earlier. Remember, some of our wives went to Vegas this weekend and posted some pictures wearing black miniskirts and a limousine and everything. And there was a time for about 2 minutes, I'm writing a comment. And I go, I'm a pastor, so I have to erase it. A few times, I'm like, okay, never mind. So I'm overcoming those temptations, but I'm not one of those men of faith. But how do you know? When you look at somebody and you say, there's a man of faith. He has a lot of faith. That's all wrong. There's a wrong way of looking at it. The Bible doesn't say, somebody has a faith. Faith is about what God has done. In fact, 3 words that I talked about last week that deals with faith is the word is title deed. Faith is the assurance. The word assurance literally means title deed. God has made his title deed saying, this is what I've done for you. Period. The word testament, Old Testament and New Testament, is like the last will and testament of God. And if my grandfather who passed away and left his last will and testament said, okay, Andy's going to get X amount of money. It wasn't too much, but it was enough for a while, for us to just go on vacations for a while, right? I don't have to do anything except to receive it. God's testament is what he has done. All we do, we don't have anything to do with it. He's the one that wrote it, right? The title deed, the testament, is what God has done. That's the faith that we hold on to. Not faith that we need to have, but faith that God did everything. We hold on to his faith, right? That's faith. Now, continuing on today, he says that on Hebrews chapter 11, I wrote down all the verses for you here. It starts out in chapter 12, verse 1. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. Now, what are great clouds of witnesses are the people that chapter 11 talks about. Right? Now, when you read the Old Testament of people that had faith in God in the Old Testament, we read it as a story. But it was real live people, Like for me, since I'm Korean and that I had struggles with my parents. Most of us do. Koreans do. And you don't yell at them. Right? I don't know. I think Brian yells at parents, but I think he's the only one. I can't yell at my mom or my dad. I can't say, you're wrong. Right? I think when I was a kid, I told my dad he was wrong one time. It was not good. I just said, you don't say things like that. So when God calls upon Gideon in the Old Testament, and his name is written in chapter 11, a man of great faith, God tells him and calls him to be the judge of Israel. And what's the first thing God tells him to do? Stand up to your dad. Right? Tell him what he's doing is wrong. And we always think of, okay, God told him to do, so Gideon just went out and did it. But imagine how difficult it must have been for him. Because back then, it was a lot worse than Korean culture. If your son comes up to you and disrespects you in public, in front of your friends, you have the right to put him in jail. You have the right for townspeople to bring him up in front of everyone and get your butt beat. Right? Even till death. That's what he said. You could literally die, right, facing you up to your parents and telling them that they're wrong. So imagine how it was for Gideon, who was not really a mighty person at this time. God tells him, I'm going to call you to become a judge, but I want you to go and stand up to your dad. It was not an easy thing. It was a very difficult thing to do. What about Abraham? God calls him, tells him, I know you're comfortable here in your land, but I want you to leave your land, your friends and everybody, and I'm going to tell you to go somewhere where, I'm going to show you where. I don't want you to know where yet, but I'll show you. Just go. Imagine how difficult that is. I know that my parents used to always tell me how difficult it is to come to the United States, not being able to speak the language, but trying to make money. I know that's difficult. But they did it. Like for me, there was a time when we had a chance to maybe have a chance to get a job about 45 miles away, east from here. Not how far is Korea? Not 7,000 miles away. 45 miles away from here. Serve a church and move to this location. And we drove around that area, and my wife and I said, there's no way we could do this. No way. This is strange land. 45 minutes from here is Lake...
Wasn't it Fontana?
Fontana. Yes, Fontana. We drove up Fontana. I said, this is strange land. We can't move here. So we decided, thank you for the offer, but no thank you. We're going to live in Cerritos. So, when you look at all these great heroes of the Old Testament, they went through their struggles. So when he says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, we need to understand what this means. When the Bible talks about all these great heroes of the Old Testament, and that we're surrounded by such great cloud of witnesses, doesn't mean that these people that lived, I don't know how long ago, are looking down from heaven and looking at us. That's something that I really, really never liked about Christianity sometimes growing up, is that God is watching you. Did anybody tell you that growing up? I know you think you're alone in the middle of the night, but God is watching you. And sometimes they use this verse and say there's great heroes of God watching you. So make sure you don't do anything dumb or whatever. And I always thought that was unfair, because I don't want to think about my God, hiding behind the closet looking at what I'm doing, or things like that. He's not a voyeur that's trying to catch me doing something wrong and say kind of stuff. So this verse is not trying to say that at all. In fact, what it's saying is that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. It means that these stories are there to let us know and to encourage us that no matter what you might be going through today, you can do it. Right? We complain about life. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough love, or I don't know what else we could complain about. But my wife doesn't understand me, or my husband doesn't understand. There's plenty of things. My husband doesn't help out with the kids enough, or my boss hates me, or things like that. My teacher hates me, and whatnot. And we could come up with a million things to get us, mad. On the way here from Cerritos, which is like what? We're still in Cerritos, I'm sorry. From my house to here is about three exits on a freeway. So it's really close. But there are workers on 91. Did you notice that today? Oh, they made me mad. Why are they working on Sunday? And it gets to a point where I get angry. And when you're angry, you can't think straight. Other things start bugging you. Life is filled with things that make it bad for you. Right? It could be things of the world. It could be someone close to you. Well, most of the time it's somebody close to you. So what the Bible's trying to say here is we have this great cloud of witnesses. People that have endured. People who have gone through things in the Old Testament. And people that have lived, that held on to their faith even until death. That same Spirit that allowed Jesus to die on the cross for our sins, that allowed the resurrection, the same Spirit dwells in us. We have this cloud of witnesses. And by the way, if you ever get to read your own Bible, NIV, the word witnesses here, right? That's the terrible translation. Cross it out. The word literally means martyrs. It literally means martyrs. People that have lived and died in faith. That God had used these people in such a mighty way. We have their testimony before us to encourage us that we can go through whatever it is that you're going through today and be victorious and do well and overcome and be a great example even for other people. That's what this means. Since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So I want to ask you this question. Right? Let us throw off everything that gets in the way. Now Paul is addressing, for example, Olympic event right here. Back then they had Olympic events. Mostly it was wrestling and running. Long distance running. But we have different kind of races now, like swimming and whatnot. How many swimmers in the Olympics do you know that has their clothes on? Nobody does. Because clothes will slow you down. In fact, I don't know if swimmers still do this. Any swimmers here? I heard it's a good sport. Right? What do? Is that all my friends in high school, they swim, they shave their legs. Right? Really? Does shaving your leg matter?
That's right.
I know, but does it really matter?
It really hurt.
So why do Koreans do it? This guy was Korean. I said, you Koreans?
There are a few exceptions.
Okay. I mean, that does not make any sense. And do they really have to wear Speedos? Right? I mean, things like that. But now there are special outfits for swimming, right? That is supposed to actually glide underwater. So it's actually better than skin. So now they're covering their whole body as they swim. Right? Meaning they're throwing off anything, right? Because they want to run the race. You don't see a marathon runner wearing jeans. Right? They wear as less as possible, or whatever it is, as helpful as can be so they can run. That's what it means to throw it off. So it is amazing to me sometimes when you're living your life for God, let's say, and you're trying to do good, and you're married, and your spouse, if there's anything that gets in the way in the relationship, right? Anything. What he's saying is, sometimes it's pretty much better idea to throw it off. Get rid of it. Right? So that you could run the race to win. To make things better for you and your work, and your home, your relationship, whatever it is, that wherever you find your struggles today, in being a good person, being a kind of a person that loves the Lord, and the kind of a person that says, I live my life for God, whatever it is that gets in the way, throw it off. Now, it doesn't mean you can never drink or anything, because some Christians go overboard. They say, yeah, any kind of alcohol gets in the way, you should drink it all. But sometimes alcohol is very helpful. It really is. It's fun. So it's not trying to say that, but if it's a habit that gets in the way of you becoming a good person. Because some people do drink a little too much. I've seen them go from a nice person to a violent person. Have you seen those people? Right? Maybe you shouldn't get drunk. Right? To a point where you're happy, fine. Right? But if it goes beyond that, maybe not. That's all. I remember meeting this guy who was like he was shy. He couldn't say much, and he was sweet. He played pianos and stuff like that. And then I saw him drink, and then all of a sudden he became the meanest guy. So something like that, maybe not a good idea. Because most people who drink, they do fine, kind of stuff. But whatever it is that hinders you, throw it off. So he says, let us throw off everything that hinders and sin that is so easily entangles. And what is interesting about this is that it doesn't say sins as in plural. It's singular. The sin that so easily entangles. What is one particular sin that entangles people? What kind of a sin is he talking about? Why is it only singular? Now, I have heard preachers say that every one of us have one particular sin that is kind of, that affects us negatively, right? So Paul is talking about that one particular sin that gets in your way, throw it off, right? But I don't know if that's the right way to translate or not. What is the sin that Paul is talking about in Hebrews? If you read this in the context of chapter 10, 11, and 12, I believe that particular sin he's talking about is the sin of self-motivated or self-righteousness, if you will. There are some of us who believe that if we do the right things, let's say, like religious things, or if we pray enough, or we go to church enough, or I don't know, we go on a mission trip, that's a good one. That somehow when we do that, then we're going to get closer to God. Paul says that's sin. Paul says that if you think that you could increase your faith by doing certain things, that's not true. Faith is something that we receive. We can't gain by doing it, you know what I'm saying? So the sin that easily entangles, or I believe he's talking about, is religion. The religion that tells you you have to be a certain way in order to be approved by God. That entangles people. It really does. Why? Because it confuses people. There are a lot of people in this world today. I met a guy I haven't seen in a long time last week, and he said, he goes, well, Pastor Andy, people just don't know you, they don't understand you. That's why they think of you this way. Why don't they not know me and to judge me, right, without really getting to know me is because they think a religious person is supposed to look a certain way. Pastors are supposed to look a certain way. There was a time, Junior, thankfully we live in the 21st century, but back in 1970s, if you drove around in a Jeep that actually said, I love four-wheel driving, right, which I did in 1978, they call me a sinner. Can you believe that? Back then, being religious meant you can't drive a four-wheel drive and go off-road kind of stuff. Because the image of that is going wild and drinking and all that. Which we did, okay? But they consider that Christians don't do that. Can you imagine that? Back when I was growing up, being homosexual was, that's it, you're going straight to hell. If you even thought about suicide, that's it, you're going to hell. That entangles people. It confuses people, you see. So instead of thinking about what is right in the sense of what is Christian, what is not, we need to just become a believer of Jesus Christ, hold on to Him, believe in Him, and trust that His Spirit will guide us to the path of righteousness. That doesn't entangle people at all. It doesn't. So I think what Paul's talking about is that this sin of religion that is so easily entangles people. When you see a religious person who's really conservative, they judge everything. And sometimes it is more harmful of spreading the gospel than good. Right? When you damn people to hell every time, I don't know if that's a good thing. I really don't think so. So don't let religion entangle you and confuse you. Run the race. Hold on to Jesus. And then he says, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, because it is a race, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. And this is one of those places in the Bible where I feel like very thankful that NIV didn't change the Greek. Because if you read some other versions, they actually write something like this. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. So they actually add the word our faith. Like my faith. If Jesus is not, I want to say this straightly, the faith he's talking about here is not my faith. Right? Jesus does not pioneer and He does not perfect my faith. He's the pioneer and the perfecter of faith. Just faith. The testament of God has been perfected by the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The promises that God made of salvation has been perfected by Jesus Christ. So faith has become perfect because of Christ, not my faith, you see. You cannot increase your faith by praying or do whatever religious thing, because it has already been perfected by the testament of our Lord Jesus Christ. And this faith is what we hold on to. He is the one that created faith. He's the pioneer, and He perfected it. The thing that He perfected, once again, is His faith, not my faith. So when someone asks me, well, then what does it mean by you having faith in God? Meaning I have faith into His faith. That's what it means to have faith. But that's not my faith. It's the faith of God in Jesus Christ. So when we do that, when we look at it in that sense, right, then we could say, hey, we could consider Jesus, who endured the opposition from sinners. And because of what Christ has done, we could endure, right? We could endure in life. And we could live without losing heart. Have you ever gone through things in your life when you felt like giving up? Right? Whether it's relationship or job or, marriage, whatever it may be. There are a lot of times we're like, I give up, forget it. Now when it comes to video games, that's fine. Right? But when it comes to relationship, when it comes to life, you can't give up. And so what God is saying is that, look, God is the one that perfected the faith of Jesus Christ. He endured the pain of death, and He resurrected from the dead for our sake. So when we go through the struggles in life, when we feel like we want to give up, God says, I discipline those whom I love. Look at it as God's discipline. Not a discipline in the sense how my dad disciplined me. Right? He's not beating us up. Discipline of God is always for our good. Right? It's not out of His frustration. His disciplines are planned out. His disciplines are perfect. And because of that reason, if you're going through struggles or whatever it be in your life, take it as joy and do not give up. Run the race to win, right? And go with the examples of Jesus and all these other people who did not give up. Work at it even harder. That's what He's saying. So in verse 11, I'll close with this. He says this, no discipline seems pleasant at times. When you go through struggles, it's not pleasant, right? We're not a bunch of Mexicans. When we get hurt, we say, oh yes, do it again. It says, no discipline seems pleasant at times, but painful at times. But later on, however, it produces harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And especially in marriage, this comes true. Every study shows, first 3 years of marriage, toughest. It's like God's discipline. But all discipline is for good. So next 4 years, it gets easier, but still very difficult. But after 7 years, since being trained for the first 7 years, it's fine. Divorce rate among people who've been married for over 7 years is very, very low. Because discipline is tough. It's painful at times. But we don't give up. Right? That's what it's saying. So it ends by saying, therefore, strengthen your feeble arms. Right? And your weak knees. Make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. We're talking about marathon here. And therefore strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees. Like when it comes to marathon, I never ran marathon officially. I did run 26 miles one day. Don't even ask me why. It was one of those I woke up and said, I want to run. But I know one of us in this room have. And Brian ran LA Marathon one time. Right? And after that, his health has never been the same. Right? You have problems since that day. Do not run marathons. It's not good. It's not good for you. But every marathon runner will tell you that it starts out kind of difficult, and then you go into cruise control. Everything is fine. Then it gets to about 14 miles, and then all of a sudden, your knees, your arm, everything just want to give up. Right? Your arm just says, "What the hell are you doing?" Your knee just says, "You're old. Stop." It hurts and it pains you. And there's a term for that. I forget what it's called. Marathon runners call that certain thing. But when you endure that for a few miles, and it becomes more of a cruise control after that. That's what they say. Right? So what he's saying is that I know when you're going through that disciplinary period, you're tired, your knees are hurting, right? You're lazy. You don't want to get up and say, oh yeah, it's another day. You don't want to look at people. In fact, when you look at certain people you're supposed to love, first thing is that just lay your eye on that person. His anger comes up first. It happens. So what he said, strengthen yourself. Strengthen yourself. Strengthen yourself. For God is with you. These great heroes of the Bible is with you. The creator and the perfecter of faith, Jesus Christ, is with you. So fix your eyes upon Him who is the creator and the perfecter of faith. Jesus Christ our Lord. That is the answer. For those of us who think, oh, if I only do this, things are going to get better. And you and I both know there's no such thing as, oh, this is so much better, life is going to be good for the rest of our lives. Over and over and over again, our knees hurt, our arms get feeble. We're being tested every single day of life. Fix your eyes upon Jesus, who is the pioneer and perfecter of your faith. I'm sorry, of the faith. Right? Then we could live that life. To a point, how does it end again? It says, instead of being disabled, we can be healed. Could be healed. There was a time in my life I said, Lord, give me this gift of healing. Wouldn't that be a fun gift? Right? If you come up to me with a problem and say, my wife and I have been having problems. Well, let me pray for you. And I pray for you and I'll say, hey, I love her. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, my knees hurt, Pastor Andy. Come on over. Right? If I get really good at it, then I can start charging people. I'll be having my Cadillac by next week. Let me heal you and stuff. And people do that all the time. We want to be healed so quickly, and God never said that. How do you heal? By going through that period of pain. Fixing our eyes upon Jesus, saying, I can go through this. I shall be victorious. That's how you're healed. That's how you're healed. So go through that pain. May the Lord bless you with that.